Namaste. Today begins the 7-day festival in Japan known as Haru no Higan, a celebration during the Vernal Equinox during which practitioners mindfully honor and pay respect to their familial and their spiritual ancestors. Now, the word Higan means the other shore, and it refers to crossing the river of samsara to realize our true nature. In life, one has to overcome the illusions, the passions, the anguish, and the delusions that we allow to distract us from awakening. And so this image of this river of samsara comes into play and makes its appearance in the word spring Higan, or spring, the other shore. Now, quite often we mistake the Dharma practice as some sort of belief system, and we miss out tremendously, I think, on the purpose and the foundation of the four great truths, or the four profound truths that were propounded upon by Buddha Shakyamuni. So let me explain. You see, this experience of turning the Four Noble Truths, or misunderstanding the Four Noble Truths, turning them into some sort of belief system, is because we're taught that the Four Noble Truths are what Buddha realized, and that somehow we, if we're to be Buddhist, have to subscribe to that same thing, have to subscribe to the same belief system that Buddha supposedly had in order to be Buddhists ourselves. Otherwise, we don't qualify to be a member of the club. Now, the Four Noble Truths, or the Four Great Truths, weren't something that Shakyamuni believed in. And what I want you to understand is that what they were was his attempt to draw from the ocean of words and concepts, as he put it, in order to teach us the practice, the action that could be taken, which would lead us to awakening. In the book Alice Through the Looking Glass, Lewis Carroll talks about Alice consuming this small vial that just has the words "drink me" on it. It doesn't tell her what's inside them. It doesn't tell her what's going to happen. It just says "drink me." And Stephen Batchelor draws upon that image in one of his books, suggesting that as an approach to the Four Noble Truths, we might think about this sort of this metaphor of the labels that Alice saw on that vial. So the first noble truth, the existence of anguish and unsatisfactoriness, again, is not something we're supposed to just believe in. We're told that it's about the realization of suffering, the realization of dukkha. Remember, the Muni's advice to the Kalamas was very, very specific about this. He said, don't be satisfied with hearsay or tradition, with legendary lore, or with what has come to be passed down through the scriptures, nor with conjecture, with logical inference, or weighing evidence, nor with liking after a view that somebody else had, or thinking, well, a monk taught this, therefore it must be true. Only when you can know for yourself, Buddha said, that something is without blame, that something is wholesome, commended by the wise, and being adopted and put into effect in your own experience, and from that experience, you can be certain that they lead to welfare and happiness. Only then should you begin to accept, practice, and act upon them. Now, that last line is the key, and quite often we focus on that first part of his advice to the Kalamas, and don't just go on hearsay, don't just go on tradition, but we forget that last line. That last line, he says, only then should you accept, practice, and act upon them. He didn't say you should believe in them. He said accept them, he said practice them, and act upon them. And the act, I think, is one of the most important parts of that advice. So therefore, in the first noble truth, the first noble truth requires that we act upon it. And as Stephen Batchelor suggests, we can imagine that there was a little label on the first noble truth, like Alice saw on that vial, and that label says, understand me. And so we act upon the realization that unsatisfactoriness, that anguish is a part of life by deeply examining it and testing it by our own direct experience. And when we experience unsatisfactoriness, when we experience dukkha, then we know that this is true. And we understand the truth, and the truth becomes our own, not just something that was passed down. The second noble truth, similarly, would bear a label that says, let go of me. And that's because the second noble truth is about the recognition that our self-cherishing, our grasping, our attachments, our attempts to hang on to whatever we think is going to make us happy, and to get rid of whatever we think causes us unhappiness, which causes this experience of anguish, which causes this experience of dukkha or unsatisfactoriness. And so once again, we have to come to understand the reality, understand the truth, practice letting go, and then our direct experience will tell us that this is truth as well. And again, it becomes our own. Now, when we look at the third noble truth, likewise, that noble truth tells us that the cessation of suffering is possible. And so it would bear the label, I think, experience me. Because only by the virtue of those fleeting moments, when we return to the moment, when we let go of our self-cherishing and our attachments, when we let go of trying to run away from what we think is going to cause us pain, only when we return to the moment and follow the breath do we experience the freedom of our true nature. And perhaps the bit that throws most of us the most, perhaps the bit that I think is most understood, is that we sort of look at those first three noble truths as the facts about life, and then the fourth noble truth is something like a recipe that will help us to end all suffering. When in fact the Noble Eightfold Path will never do anything to end the experience of suffering in your life. And so if you're approaching those first three noble truths as, this is the facts of life, and you imagine that the Noble Eightfold Path is going to lead you to awakening, you will never experience awakening. See, the fourth noble truth is simply an invitation to experience a new way of life, neither austere nor indulgent, neither the life of the mendicants nor the life of the lavish. And so once we've put into practice and experienced the first three noble truths, it's an invitation for us to experience this middle way. Only after we recognize that dukkha exists and that we are the cause of it, and by virtue of our attachments, recognize that only once we let go of those attachments, those self-cherishing ideas and behaviors, can we begin to experience the fourth noble truth, the resultant way of life that comes from having let go of the source of our attachments, the middle way, or what we call the Tao. And so it is during this spring festival that we're called upon to remember and make offerings to our biological ancestors and our spiritual or Dharma ancestors as well, the teachers who through our lineage brought down the truth and paved the way for us to experience in this precious human lifetime the opportunity to understand and act upon these profound truths, to embrace a new liberated way of life. So for us, the Dharma is not something that we believe in. It's something that we do. It's something that we experience. It's something that we practice. You see, that's why our path is called Zen Kondo, because it's not something that rather than calling it Buddhism, because it's, if you say that something is something-ism, then that's a religion. Then that's a belief system. And so we're mindful that we're not part of the corruption or the distortion of the Dharma message into a belief system, complete with its superstitions, its mythos, its clericalism, and all of that goes with it. But instead, we're part of a Tao, part of a way of life, the way of primordial compassion. Namaste.